Welcome back to Think Like a Brand. As you can tell, I'm still in Florida and I'm having the time of my life. And so in this podcast episode, I wanted to touch on the power of storytelling within every single one of your posts. Because if you can't storytell, you are missing such a foundational skill that's going to get you to your next level. And what do I mean by this? You as a creator have to learn how to tell stories in a way that moves people, that makes them emotional, that makes them want to buy into you in a minute of actually seeing one of your reels. Because when you activate that part of their brain, like we spoke about in the past episodes, when you do that, they're going to be influenced so quickly. And so let's say that you're on your reels right now. You're on the Discover page, something comes up and it's someone's story about like where their life was 2 years ago and what they've had to go through and how their life is now. You can't help but stay until the end of that episode. And the reason for that is because they've highly influenced you to move. They've affected your brain. They've moved you to the place that you want to generally just buy into them right now. And that is where a buying decision can go from 3 months to a year to literally 3 hours, if that. It can even be an hour. I've had people come across some of my storytelling posts and they've immediately wanted to pay me up to 15k because of the fact that they said to me, I see your story, I see what you've gone through, and I want exactly the same thing. And so in this podcast episode, I just want to touch on your story and how you're telling it. And so when it comes to your story, what I want you to really think about is you need to have a brand story, because your brand story is what you're going to get known for. And so when you think about Apple, you think of the entire story about how Apple's made. When you think of Nike, you think about Nike's story. When you think of like any big brand, a lot of the time they have a huge story that you're buying into. And so what I want you guys to really think about is your brand story. What's got you here and what has got you to the place that you're at today, and how can that brand story really connect to your ideal client? Because this is where I see a lot of people go wrong. They're telling this story, but they're telling it in a way that's so fucking boring, and it's just like, I want to shake you and be like, do you realize how great your story is, how incredible your story is, and how if people heard that in a way that you truly want to tell it, how many people's lives will be changed off the back of it? And I find that, especially as women, a lot of us shy away from telling our story because we're ashamed of it, or we think that we shouldn't toot our own trumpet because it might get us hate and we shouldn't be like allowed to do that. I literally call bullshit on that, because it's up to you to toot your own horn and toot your own trumpet and actually show off where you've come from and where you've got to. And that story is going to move so many people's lives in a way that the world has never seen before. And so your brand story is all about what has got you to where you've got to as an overview. So as an example, my brand story started 4 years ago, 5 years ago, whatever day it was, when I got made redundant. And so in that time, I thought that the job I had was going to be the job that I would have for the rest of my life. I worked so hard to get to the position. It was in London. It was in a great company. It was doing social media and graphic design and marketing for some really cool hotels. I got to basically go around the different hotels, meet different guests from around the world. I made all the graphic design, like printable stuff that all the guests from around the world got to like put on their suitcases, all of the stuff that I love doing. And whilst at times it was horrendous, I thought that that would be me for the rest of my life. But this scary like monster within my stomach would always shout at me and be like, you're made for so much more than this. You are made to generally change so many people's lives and to own your own business, and you know it. And it was like this this monster was sitting in my shoulder, being like, you know, you're not supposed to do this. You know, you're not supposed to do this. You know, you're supposed to be doing so much more than this. And it wasn't going away. And I would always sit back at my desk and just imagine how my life got to look when I got to own my own company and when I got to call myself my own boss. And I was that person that, I don't want to say I was like the devil, and if you're looking to employ me, I probably wouldn't, because I was that person that would probably never want to be there, would always be thinking about ways that I wanted to get out of your company. And I'm sorry if anyone's listening to this that has employed me, because I love you very much, but I just was made to be my own like boss. I was the person that as much as I tried to fall in love with like other people's companies, I was not ever having it. Like, I was just always the person that was so bored of just making someone else's dreams become their reality. And I was like, I could get to do this for my own like life. And it's not only that, but the way that at the end of the day, I wasn't the business owner, so I didn't get to make the final decision. And I was thinking all the time, I want to do things so differently. I want to do things in my own way. I want to do things in a way that I know will work, but I could never, ever obviously do that because it wasn't my business. And so all of those moving parts, I didn't want to be there anymore. And so anyway, back to my brand story, COVID hit. I got made redundant in like a day, if that. I got basically told that don't bother turning up anymore. And in that moment, my entire heart sunk because everything had been taken away from me. And even though I had all these thoughts of like, should I be doing this? Should I be doing that? I need to be doing my own business. They were fun thoughts, but I didn't think I'd actually have to make them my reality anytime soon. And I was just being like a massive pussy, if I'm being honest. And so when it actually happened and I had to turn that like nice fairy tale into my actual reality, it wasn't as easy as I ever thought it would be. And so what happened is that I obviously couldn't go back to work because I didn't have a job. I got put on furlough. It was great. I was like living my life. I got a 6-pack. I was doing Courtney Black's workout. I was running in the morning. I was doing weights in the evening. I was living my life, and it was so fun because I could just do what I want. Like, it was just so good. It was just like I was getting paid for actually just working out. Brilliant. But in this, like, in the times when I was not working out and I was not just like watching Netflix, I was like, this could be your chance to generally like make something huge of yourself. Like, this could actually be it. And so I went and done freelancing for like another marketing agency, but that was fun because I was still my own boss. But then the thought came back. The devil that was on my shoulder was still going, you're made to do this, you're made to do this, you're made to do this. And it kept coming up every single day. And then fast forward, I basically started taking on more social media clients. I started building up my own business. I started like doing everything for myself. Before you know it, I was like booked out social media. I was like booked out marketing. And then from there, obviously the freelancer that I was working for wasn't loving the fact that I was also again making my own business. Sorry, not sorry. And then my life just started to change from there. One thing led to another. 2 clients led to 5. 5 led to 10. Then after like a while, I started doing social media. But then I was like, I'm meant to help people. And I don't want to just be doing social media for clients that I'm not actually even talking to and I'm just doing it for them. I want to help people and like mentor people. That's when obviously the coaching came around. But then it's so funny because now I'm doing this like whole 360, 180, whatever you want to call it, where as much as I love mentoring people and I'll be like your biggest cheerleader, I fucking love like being in your business and actually just doing the shit for you, because I know that like I'm very creative, and what could take you probably 1 hour if you're not naturally like creative will take me about a minute. And so this is where, as you'll start to see these episodes coming out, I'm not going to say too much right now, you're going to start to see how I'm like pulling together the done for you with the coaching, and you're going to come to me when you want the whole entire one-stop shop from I'll do it for you when you're not actually an expert in that area, but also I'm going to mentor you to make you rise to your next level. So stay tuned for that. But anyway, that's my brand story. And then each one of your offers should also have a story. And so when I say an offer story, it's about what made you create that offer and why. Because it's not just like plucked out from fucking underneath the sofa. It's come from a place that you've probably had a download. Again, wherever you believe in the higher earth, like whatever you believe in, I believe that you do get these downloads and you do get these thoughts at specific times because you're supposed to act on them. So you have got the download to create the offer that you've created because of a reason, and you need to start making notes of when you actually have those downloads and what offer has come off the back of that, because that story is going to sell out that offer. And this is where I see so many people are just saying the benefits and the features, and you get 2 calls and 3 calls, and it's so boring, quite frankly boring, when you get to actually tell the story about how that offer was created, why it was created, where it was birthed from. Where were you when you had that idea about that offer? Like, how has it changed your life? Why did you then have to change other people's life and had to put it into an offer? Because that is what's going to sell it. And so each one of your offers, I really highly recommend you making a note of why they were created. And so for me, this looked like Rise. The reason why Rise was created was because I knew that before Rise, I had Sell Your Heart Out, which many of you were in. It was fantastic. It was 3 months. I had such cool people in there. Like, they really, really, really changed their business. And that story was all about how to sell with your heart versus just selling in like a masculine, harsh, horrible way. And I loved that offer. But after Sell Your Heart Out finished, I was like, there's room for so much more. Now that they can sell their heart out, how do they sell their personality? How do they build a brand? How do they actually make their offer suite? How do they actually like make something visual? What about their mindset? Like, there was so much to it, and I was thinking, like, how can I create something that changed everyone's life? And then I was talking backwards and forwards, and I was like, they need to rise. There you go. Rise was created. So then Rise was like, how do you rise in all areas of your life from the inside outside? It couldn't be 3 months. It had to be 6 months. It had to be longer than 3 months, because to me, you need time to rise. You need time to evolve. You need time to face your biggest fears head on, fell straight on your face, and let me pick you back up again and push you in a different direction. You need time to go backwards and forwards and refine. And like I always say to people, it's like tightening bolts. You need time to tighten all the bolts. And so that's why Rise was 6 months. Sell Your Heart Out is now within Rise. Rise has had an entire makeover. It took me so long to actually like birth Rise, because I had to think about what I wanted from it. And the story around Rise, I could go into it, but that is why I have created it. And so I've got my brand story, I've got my offer story, and then I'll have like micro moments that happen to me every single day. Like, me being in Florida is a micro moment story that I can then turn into content. Me actually like having my biggest up level I've probably ever had in 29 years is a micro moment story. Like, me being here and like, wanting to cry most days and just like, I'm just on my own dancing. You can tell from the energy of these videos, I'm just so like high on life. That's come from a micro moment, and it's about me showcasing everything that I'm moving throughout my content in a way that magnetizes people in, that makes them feel something, that then makes them want to like have that connection with me. And this is where I see a lot of people when they tell stories, you're telling it based on like thinking you're an influencer by saying like, oh, this is me and my coffee, great, this is me at the gym, cool. But how is you being at the gym midway through the day actually impacting your audience? And what I say to people when you tell stories is, always connect your story to what your audience want most. Always, always, always put, okay, this is a story that I'm telling. Why am I telling it? Based on what my ideal dream high level client wants. Because when you can tell a story based on what they want the most, that's when that story is going to land and make you money off the back of it, and actually move people and call them forward to rise, rather than just some weird ass boring vague story that makes no correlation to what you're selling and what you want to be doing within your business. And so every time you tell a story, a tip I want you to think about is, how can I actually turn this story into something that my audience want like now? And what am I selling, and how can I connect this story back to what I'm selling? If I'm selling an offer about Rise, let's say I've got an offer on Rise and I'm selling that, I'm going for a launch of it, I need to be showing through my stories within my content how I'm rising, what rising means, you rising versus you not rising, when I decided to rise, what my life looked like, and I'm connecting them to the story. And if it's not when you're going for a launch and you just want to bring more story content within your social media on Instagram or TikTok, whatever it is, always ask yourself, what can I learn from this story, and what do my audience need to learn from this story as well? And so I'm just looking at the time, because I was like, I want to go and get dinner, and I said in the last podcast episode I'm going to get dinner, and I've got like 20 minutes to go and get a pizza before it shuts. But coming back to the story, what I want you to think about when it comes to your story is, when it comes to telling a story, always tell it from your senses. And what I say to people, there's 2 really good tips when it comes to telling your story. One is talk like you're already, like you're still in that story, okay? So what I mean by this is, I can take you back to when I was employed. So as I walk into that office, I open the big wooden door. And as I walk through the dark corridor and I walk headfirst with my head in my lap into my, whatever it is, office, blah, 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 I look around me. And all I see at this time, okay, what I'm trying to get to the point here is that you guys feel like you're in this story with me right now. I'm not saying 4 years ago when I was employed, I looked like this. This is how my life looked, as in, like, past tense. You don't want to be telling a story on past tense. You want to be telling the story as the present tense right now. So always think about that when you're telling stories. Make the person think that they're in that story with you right now by making them feel like it's happening now. That is such a good trick when it comes to telling stories, because it makes people activated enough to actually feel like they're there with you. The other lesson I want to teach you guys when it comes to telling stories is, how are you using all your senses when it comes to your story? So as I walked into the office, I could see X, Y, and Z. I could feel the sticky hands of every other employee in that office. I could taste just nothing because my mouth was so dry because I could never use my voice. All I could hear was people tapping away at the keyboard. And this is what I want you guys to really think about, is how can you use all your senses when you're telling a story? Because what does this do? It makes the human feel like they're there with you in that story. This is where I see a lot of you go wrong when it comes to telling your story, is that your story needs to land in a way that people feel like they're there with you, they're experiencing it, they're feeling the emotions, they can close their eyes and imagine it. The same thing comes from when you were a little girl or a little boy and you're watching Netflix or you're watching like your favourite Disney film. The way that the story is created is because they want you to feel like they're there with you. They want to be so descriptive in every single part of that story that you feel like you're there with them. You feel like you're in that film with them. And the reason why you can remember all your favourite Disney films 25, 30 years on is because of the way that it activated your brain to move. It activated a part of your brain that you will never, ever, ever forget about because of how descriptive that story was. You can remember what she was wearing, the princess. You can remember the background. You can remember everything. And it's all coming from the way that they describe their senses. And you feel like you're literally coming through that TV screen into the film with them. So when it comes to telling either your brand story or your offer story, tell it from your senses and tell it as if you are there with them right now. And then a final storytelling tip, which is very good, is when it comes to your content on social media, you can tell stories through reels or carousels. Reels, however, do land very, very well with people because you can use music to actually make people feel like they're there with you. You can use movement to make people feel like they're there with you. You can quickly capture someone's attention because you can like be like, oh, I was here and then I'm here and I'm moving from this to this, or it's the way that you walk, the way that you do things with your hands. The human mind, if you think about a carousel, yes, you can add in images and the words can actually tell a story. However, if you're watching an actual video and you're watching someone move and you're watching someone cry and they could be like hunched over or they could be really expressed, that movement is what you're buying into, and it's what your mind is remembering from that story. And so this is why reels work very well when it comes to you telling your story, because what you can actually do is by using specific audio. And remember, when it comes to you using audios, always think about the songs that move people based on the story that you're telling. If it's a very high upbeat like story that you want people to dance to and you want them to feel great, choose a song that matches that. If it's like, oh, I actually want you to feel a little bit sorry for me because I've gone through a really hard time but I've come out the other side, choose a song that matches that. Also, the captions, if you are saying something to do with, I've gone through such a big moment, blah, 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 and it's more of a like, not feeling sorry for you, but like making people feel something, use words that relate to that. If it's like, this is the best time, come in my ship, we're going to X, Y, and Z, woohoo, right? That was the weirdest woohoo I've ever done in my life. But if it's like that, use captions that lift people up, not makes them feel, I feel sorry for you and I relate to you. Your captions, your audios, and even the videos that you're choosing, they have to be chosen in such a specific way in order for your audience to feel a certain way. And this is where I see a lot of people either have a great caption, but the audio is completely wrong, or the audio is completely right, but then the caption is just not matching up. All of the moving parts that make up a reel, so the text, the videos, and the music have to all add up in order for that reel to land better than it ever has done before. And so when it comes to your story as a summary, you need your brand story, you need your offer stories. Tell the story as if you are there with that person right now. Use all your different senses. And when it comes to creating stories within your content, make sure that you're matching your audios, make sure that you're matching the captions, and make sure that you're matching the actual video, what you want people to feel when they see that story. And when you do all of this very, very well, what you can then start to do on level like 100 is start to use that same brand story, but use it in a carousel, then use it in an email, then turn it into a reel. And you can mix and match your different stories in a way that makes people really, really remember you, and remember that stories should be told over and over again. Because you think Apple's only going to tell their story once. No. Apple tells their story over and over and over and over again, and not so much now because they're very established. But in order for you to become established, you need to tell your story non-stop, over and over, 6 times, 7 times, 8 times. But what a great marketer does is tell that story in different ways. Emails, carousels, caption, TikToks, videos, talking head reels. Tell the story in different formats, and that's how it will land, and that's how you're going to start being remembered for your personal brand, because people are going to start seeing your story over and over and over. So never think that you're becoming repetitive, because being repetitive is a great thing when it comes to marketing. Learn how to tell your story, learn how to really become descriptive with your story, and just watch how many people are going to start remembering your personal brand based on your story. If you're listening to this and you're like, I just don't know about my story and what parts of my story I should tell, the Story Brand Bundle is for you. This is for you, and this is why I've created this. It gives you 30 different ways that you can tell your story. We have a half-day Telegram day, me and you one-to-one, where we can actually work on your story, your brand story, your offer story, and actually what parts of it you should be telling when and how based on what you're launching. And also you get the group VIP experience within Telegram that works on your inside brand in order to grow your story into this like well-known established brand, but also then how to turn that into an outside brand that goes to the moon and far beyond. So if you're like, I need to work on my story, message me on Instagram, the word story, and I'll send you all the information that you need. It's at an incredible, crazy price. But remember, your story is what's going to sell you out. So don't ever be afraid of selling it. Thank you all so much, and I'll see you in the next episode.